Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would clarify a stance I made the other day. It's actually probably going to have been a couple weeks ago by the time this video comes out, in which I said that I think deadlifting with straps is a complete waste of time. And I want people to understand I promote a lot of variation these days in the deadlift. I tell people, look, sumo should be the basis of most of your training. But sumo variations are good. Sumo on plates with deficit, sumo against chains, sumos against bands, speed pulls with sumos against bands. Conventional deadlifts, deficit deadlifts with chains. Trap bar deadlifts, right? We need to have, as we become more and more advanced and you're trying to just get as big and as strong as possible, doing a lot of different deadlift variation has merit, And some of the strongest deadlifters of all time, who are also incredibly jacked dudes, tended to follow that sort of philosophy. They did a lot of deadlift variations. But what I'm going to say that for most people is that deadlifting with straps is not really among them. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, what do you mean? Why would I let my grip be my limiting factor? It's not just about your grip being a limiting factor. Now, I've also stated that, hey, most of you guys should learn the hook grip. I've also stated that deadlifts shouldn't be done for more than one rep, right? Lots and lots of singles when we're talking about deadlifts. Now, that might be different with a trap bar or something. I'll make an exception for the trap bar. I'll even say it's a different beast. You could do rep work with it. But we need to be realistic about our training economy and the effects that we get from our training. If most of us out here, the overwhelming majority of people listening, are either drug-free or very conservative users of anabolics. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most of the people watching YouTube Fitness or who are coming here for training advice or programming or coaching or anything else are not using abuse amounts of anabolics. And I think that's probably a fair statement. That would only constitute a very, very tiny minority of people out there. So therefore, advice is going to tend to go in the direction of guys who are using either nothing or they're very conservative. And that's where most of our training advice needs to be geared. Now, someone who's using their brains out, I don't care, man. They don't have the same recovery issues. It's a non-issue. For everyone else, recovery resources matters. And so I tend to tell guys, if you're not going to deadlift while gripping the bar, we have variations of the good morning, and I demonstrate for you guys different variations of the good morning. We have other hip hinges. We have things that can bring a lot to the table that replicate most of the reason you guys are deadlifting. Because if you're deadlifting with straps, you are not deadlifting for the reason that we deadlift. Why do we deadlift? Why do any of us deadlift? It's certainly not because it's the best hypertrophy exercise. I would hope that's not why you guys are deadlifting. Because a lot of experts think that the deadlift is not necessarily the best exercise for hypertrophy because of the amount of muscle stimulation versus the fatigue ratio that it creates. We deadlift to improve maximum strength through the entire body. We deadlift to improve, in certain cases, speed strength through the entire body. Now, I'm not talking about just jumping speed strength. We're not talking about leg speed strength. We're talking about full body speed strength. Because if I want to develop just explosive speed strength for primarily the lower body, we can do box squats with bands for that, can't we? All right? That will give you as much explosiveness as you can possibly get. We can do weighted box jumps also for that. All right? Deadlifts don't compete with that. Power cleans and power snatches don't compete with that. I want to make that clear. Those are exercises people do for explosiveness. As far as training economy and use of your resources, those don't even compete with those other two lifts I listed. And I can assure you that deadlifts don't. And I'm not saying speed pulls can't contribute to explosiveness, particularly with bands or chains. Particularly with bands, because they absolutely can. They can, but it's full body. It's full body. All right, and to get any of those effects you're trying to do, the grip actually matters. All right, your grip matters. And I've heard someone say, well, Jason, you can grip the bar really tight with straps. No, you can't. It's not the same animal. It is absolutely not the same. because you can actually let your grip be at 70%. You can grip a little bit loose and just grip somewhat tight and pull your 1 rep max. All right, with straps. And of course, it's tough on your wrist. But the actual act of gripping the bar creates a radiant effect through the body. All right, we know that even on the bench press. I mean, how many coaches out there tell you guys that if you squeeze the bar as hard as possible, you can bench press more? If you squeeze the bar as hard as possible in this lift or that lift, or you brace your core super hard, you get a radiant effect that increases neuromuscular efficiency. It increases muscle fiber recruitment. It reaches upper threshold muscle fibers faster. Okay? By squeezing the bar as hard as possible, and that is true of both the hook grip and the mixed grip and the double overhand grip. Like, people forget that. The hook grip doesn't remove that. You have to squeeze the bar really, really hard. You have to crush that bar when you're doing a hook grip with a heavy weight. All right? If you don't, the hook will not stay. It will not stay. You're not going to be able to set your hook and keep it if you grip it loose. You have to grip it a lot tighter than you have to with straps. Straps will never compete, because you'll actually, at a certain point where the lift gets hard, you won't grip it as hard. It doesn't compete with it. By gripping the bar, we get an effect inside of our peripheral nervous system that carries over to a lot of other areas. All right, and actually your grip strength and how hard you're gripping actually ties really heavily to things like your upper back. By gripping the bar and being forced to grip the bar, you develop more full body strength on the deadlift. The moment you strap up and your grip isn't being utilized, it's not only about forearm and grip development. It's about your nervous system and training for maximum strength or maximum speed strength, right? Explosiveness. By doing that, by putting straps on, you are losing one of the most important benefits of the deadlift, because it trains the entire body for that. We can train the lower body purely for that off of squat variations, jumps, things like that. We can get those things off of squatting. We don't have to deadlift to get those. The deadlift has a full body component, and that grip is part of it. So the moment you strap up, you lose that. Now you're no longer training all of that. You might be getting the dead stop at the bottom, which is a part of the benefit. You're losing a lot of that, and you're putting a lot of axial load on your body. I can tell you right now, per unit of fatigue generated, any form of deadlift, because of the spinal loading near the lockout, is going to put more fatigue on your body in terms of recovery resources for the same amount of training stimulus that other hip hinges will, as far as what they're putting on your spinal erectors, your glutes, your hamstrings, all your posterior chain. A good morning can easily stimulate all of those things in good morning variations just as much as a deadlift. But it does so with far less negative effect on your recovery. So if you're losing the grip element and you're losing all that benefit, doesn't make sense. We have good mornings, and they bring a lot to the table. When I say good morning, I'm not just talking about a straight bar good morning. I'm talking about variations. You can do good mornings off of pins from a dead stop. I mean, if you really want to replicate a deadlift with straps on, you could just do a good morning off pins. Right? You could do a good morning off pins as a concentric based exercise. But normally it has a stretch reflex component. All right, but I'm just giving you an example. You want to change the loading and where the ratios are as far as erectors versus hamstrings and stuff. You can use different bars. We have the safety bar. We want to change the strength curves. We can use bands. We can use chains. I use both. Every week right now on Good Mornings, I do both. We have a lot of variation on an exercise like that. That is a hip hinge. If you are using the deadlift as a hip hinge and you are using it for posterior chain and back development, that's the only reason you would be using straps to do it. Why wouldn't you just use good mornings? You can get more training volume from it and recover. So when it comes to the time where someone says, well, I can't do this or that without straps, well, just do good mornings then. Work on your grip more. Learn to hook grip. Work on fixing your grip. And even do some trap bar pulls if you have to. And if you can't pull a trap bar, you got major grip problems. Like if you can't do your maxes on a trap bar, you need to sort your grip. All right, you're weak. And you're only as strong as your weakest link. But you have other things you can do besides putting a strap on. And if you are at the point, well, I need more volume. I only put the straps on the deadlift for my volume work. Why are you doing volume work on the deadlift? Go do another hip hinge. Use a good morning variation. You'll get everything you want to get out of it, but it'll be easier to recover from it, so therefore you can do even more volume and stimulate more adaptation. Maybe that's why your hamstrings suck. Maybe that's why your back sucks. Because you're trying to do rep work on a deadlift, and then you wonder why you can't handle enough training load. All right? That's all I'm saying, is that the deadlift is not intended to work that way. You're not utilizing the exercise effectively. We have other things that can replace any sets or reps that you were going to do with straps even better. You do your deadlifts and your deadlift variations without them. You need to use your actual grip. All right, it's actually important for the effects. And if you're not going to get that benefit from it, there are other exercises that can fatigue all of those same muscles for a training response that are easier to recover from. It's not a good use of your training economy and your training resources and recovery resources. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.